Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee McKenna, and I bring my 30-plus years as a recovering addict and ex-crazy person turned therapist and shamanic healer to bring you snackable teachings on spirituality, psychology, and all things personal growth. And today I want to talk about the power of focus, or investing our attention. And this is the fourth and final part of a series I'm doing based on the book, The 4 Questions, A Pathway to Inner Peace by Vaisheshika. And this fourth question is, where am I investing my attention right now? And he suggests that if we keep asking this question, what is the best investment of my attention right now, we can realign with the only point at which we have real power. The present moment right now. And I know for myself, my mind has a mind of its own, and it can often be cluttered with anxieties, to-do lists, fantasies, and conversations with people who aren't even present. And those may be conversations that will never happen. There are many times it has felt like there's a TV blaring in the background that I just have to ignore of all the thoughts I don't really want to be paying attention to that are just running their own program. For much of my life, I had a series of inner critics who could find fault with almost anything I was engaged in. Very happy to report that those inner critics have been banished or dissolved long ago. And as a client of my own spiritual psychology work, driven by my own desire for peace, joy, and prosperity in my inner experience, one of the best places to bring my attention has been to my own inner world. What's actually happening there? I spent the first third of my life running, screaming desperately away from it, medicating with drugs, alcohol, men, food, reading, just about anything I could find. And now, of course, most of us have a little distraction device with us almost constantly called a phone. And the unfortunate lore, even in some of the recovery and healing circles I'm in, is that anxiety, depression, the terrible inner voices that I'm trying to turn the volume down as much as possible, they're just something I have to learn to live with. And that is a terrible lie, but it's a lie rooted in ignorance and misunderstanding. I have come to believe that our deepest purpose here is our own growth, evolution, and human experience. And we all have the power and agency to evolve and change that experience. The most important tool we have for that transformative power is our attention. And life is not a self-help program. We are here to grow in love and interdependence, in appreciative connection with our interbeing with all things, because that is the deepest truth. And so I speak in we's and ours because this is a group project. We can't do this work alone. The idea that we are independent is a fallacy. And although we are individuals, we are like cells in a body. The cells in our body only exist as living entities in unity. A single skin, bone, or muscle cell separated from our circulatory nervous system and all the other systems that it needs to keep it alive. It's just some dead cellulose. It is only in connection with others, with the elements, with the life force that we thrive and survive. So whether we are receiving help from the human realm or the spirit realm or the ancestral realm or the elemental realm of nature, our brain is often like a bad neighborhood, and we shouldn't go in there alone. And luckily, there is almost infinite help available to us when we open ourselves to it, whether we experience that help spiritually, relationally, or professionally. Growing in our capacity to receive is a muscle most of us need to exercise and strengthen. So back to this question, where am I investing my attention right now? And I encourage you to take a moment and ask yourself that question. You're listening to this podcast. What else are you doing? And how mindfully are you doing those things? And what's your motivation for what is drawing your attention right now? No judgment, no shame, no blame, just noticing. And I like the way this question is phrased. Where am I investing my attention right now? The verb investing evokes the awareness of the fact that our attention is valuable, and giving something our attention is making an investment in it. It's putting energy into it, and different investments bring different outcomes. Our attention is powerful. Where our attention goes, energy flows. And because we are spiritual and energetic beings, our attention, our thoughts are like beams of energy or spiritual energy, spiritual substance. We are individual units of consciousness connected to a larger consciousness system, just like those cells in the body. And we do have this power to direct our consciousness or our attention. And this is a creative power or a destructive force, depending on how we use it. This is actually our free will to decide where we focus. Now, out of ignorance, we may not know we have this choice, or we can consciously choose not to use it and just be carried along in this kind of mass consensual trance that we're all living in. We all have preconceived ideas and habits that dictate our lives. And this is the power of presence and the present moment that most of the wise ones point to. When we bring awareness to where we are focusing, what we're doing, even if it feels unfocused, right now, it will improve the quality of our lives. Many of us walk around in kind of a semi-dream, mindlessly rather than mindfully, moving through our life, doing things we'd rather not do, acting and relating in ways and in circumstances we'd rather not be in. And I know for myself, I preferred to stay asleep because I was hopeless to do anything about those circumstances, both internal and external. I didn't know I had the power of consciousness and change. I didn't know I was connected with the infinite source of wisdom and creativity, or that this great intelligence was always whispering for me to grow, often through the circumstances of my life. The painful ones telling me I was going in the wrong direction or something needed attention, and the joyful, happy ones supporting my path to progress and health. So it's very common to move through our day without being consciously aware of what we're doing. We meet people and forget their names seconds later. We're driving and suddenly reach our exit and have no memory of the last 10 miles. If it feels like time is passing by very quickly, it's because you aren't paying attention. Time is a mysterious phenomenon, and it has been very clear to me that when I am mindful, time slows down. And when I am mindless, time is like sand through my fingers. And many of the great spiritual and self-development practices are about exercising our muscles of focus and attention. Prayer, meditation techniques, practicing chanting or mantras are all excellent methods of training and strengthening this quality of mindfulness and attention. Now, I know for myself and many others that there was an inner resistance to being present because of an existential hopelessness about the potential for positive change. This is one of the beautiful gifts of the first 3 steps in the 12-step fellowships and the principles that underlie them. And the first step is, I'm powerless over something and my life feels unmanageable. That's the first focus of my attention. We can absolutely focus on our joy, but for many of us, our suffering presents obstructions to that joy that have to be removed before we can pursue it fully. And so what's causing suffering in my life? And lots of times we don't even want to look at it because as soon as we do, there's an immediate story or belief that there's nothing we can do to change it. And that is the essence of the first step, that I am powerless over my suffering. And there is some truth in that, if I am only a single cell in a petri dish. But the second step, with the principle of hope, connects us with the infinite resources of the larger universe. And the second step asks us to come to believe that a power greater than ourself can restore us to sanity, health, or wholeness. This concept of hope, that positive, constructive change is possible beyond what I might be able to imagine. That's why we turn to a higher power, a more expanded wisdom, a deeper intelligence than my limited human ego self can conceive. And so am I willing to open to the possibility that things could be different, that I could be different, that my problems that I cannot see a way out of could be solved? And I'm going to tell you, all of those things are true. But figure it out is not a spiritual principle. And this brings us to the necessity of the third step, which is about asking for and receiving help. And the third step is written, make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand God. And for me, the operative word in that is care. To ask for and receive help from a caring force in the universe. Many of us consciously or unconsciously reject the idea of God because we've been force-fed some terrible, mean, judgmental oppressor, or had some other shitty, uncaring, or even destructive force that we associate with that word. And so if you have a problem with the word God, then the God you're aware of is not the one that I'm talking about. Words are powerful, and I have found tremendous benefit in changing out the word God for things that feel more authentic for me. Goddess, source, universal intelligence, creative mind, spirit of nature. But if your individual limited resources are not creating the life that you would like for yourself, you might want to try expanding your resources into the unlimited, larger body that we are all a part of. And if our focus, our attention is a creative power, then what we focus on is what we are creating in our life. Am I focused on discord, my fears? Am I focused on love and what I can bring rather than what I can get? Am I focused on my problems, or am I focused on my solutions? Or am I mindlessly, distractedly flowing through life, fulfilling other people's expectations, or even my ideas about cultural or other people's expectations that may or may not even be true? Now, those are deeper questions, but just noticing where our attention is at any given moment is a pretty profound practice. So I was with the client yesterday, and she's been struggling with sleep for pretty much her whole life. It seems like no matter how much she sleeps, she always wakes up feeling tired and unrested, not interested in getting up for the day. She has to force herself up. Now, she tends to go to bed very late, and part of what keeps her up late is playing games and scrolling on the phone. And she's deleted and re-added games and different apps at different times. But it would be a big shift for her to move from going to sleep at 11 or midnight or even 1 to going to sleep at 8:30, 9:30, or 10. And as we brought attention to this idea of experimenting with change, she noticed immediately there was a dismissive story that said, "This will never change. Don't even bother." And so that's a very interesting thing to notice. Hopelessness. And this is the power of that second step, to bring hope into the places that we are hopeless. And just that awareness that she's been unwilling to bring attention to this problem that faces her every day, that conscious awareness gives her a choice now to bring her attention to this kind of low-level suffering that's been with her for decades. And she could feel the resistance to making a change. And so I suggested she be playful with it, experiment, open up the possibilities that things could be different. I have found that an attitude of lighthearted, open-minded playfulness, just to try different things, see what happens, can really loosen up habits, old beliefs, and unconscious patterns that gets things flowing in a way that kind of trying to force change doesn't allow. I also suggested that she ask the universe for help for motivation, for guidance, and willingness. And I've accompanied this person through many positive, constructive changes in their life. And I have no doubt that these experiments with different relationships with time and social media and the phone, playing with different bedtimes and bedtime rituals, will create and evoke this change that they're looking for. Now, there's a whole other aspect of focus as a creative force, setting intentions, the ideas of manifestation. That's really a whole other topic and really valid and potent work. But I'm going to encourage you to bring your awareness inside. Notice where your attention is right now. Is that what you want to be focused on? Is it a distraction from something that's causing you suffering that might be a block to your larger health, joy, and fulfillment? Look deeply. See if you can notice what you're distracting away from. What are you trying not to pay attention to because it feels hopeless? And perhaps bring your attention, your focus, to just notice those pain points and bring these principles of these steps to positive change. I'm not able to change this myself. Can I open the possibilities of hope? And am I willing to ask for help from source or from humans around me to begin to focus on the solution rather than the problem? Thank you so much for listening. Blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaValle McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.